horrific that even when you close your eyes at night years later, that image still haunts your mind? Something happened to me 7 years ago, and even today at 15, I am still so disturbed by it that I don't know if I'll ever be the same again. If I could just go back in time and not have got lost that day, everything would be so different today. I'm Sarah, and I was 8 years old when this happened. It was fall, and me and my sister were out playing in the nearby forest. She's 4 years older than me, so our mom said it was okay for us to go play. Fall is the best because there are so many leaves on the forest floor, and I loved the crunching sound they made every time I jumped into a big pile of them. It was my sister's idea to play hide and seek. I told her it wouldn't be very fun with only 2 people, but she insisted, and she made me count. She ran off to hide, and I stood with my face against a tree, counting. By the time I'd counted to 30, I decided it was enough. "Ready or not, here I come!" I shouted into the forest. I looked and I looked, but I couldn't find her anywhere. Eventually, I found myself on the edge of the forest, next to a road, and I realized I was completely lost. I started crying and sat down, hoping that my sister would hear me and come and find me. But that's not what happened. The next moment, a car pulled up, and a woman with long, stringy hair poked her head out of the window and asked me if I was okay. When I told her I was lost, she asked me to hop in and said she'd drop me off at my home. In my head, I could hear my mom's voice saying, "Never ever speak to strangers, okay?" And yet, I still got in. It was cold, and I was only 8 years old, so you can't blame me. Well, that was my first mistake. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Yep, she drove straight by my house and kept on going. When I tried to get her to stop, she told me to shut up or she'd hurt me. I was so scared, I almost wet my pants. She kept looking across at me in this weird way, as if she was my friend. She was smiling at me nonstop, and it was really creepy. Honestly, I was terrified. Little did I know it was about to get worse. After what felt like hours, although it was probably only 10 minutes, we arrived at a dilapidated little cottage on the other side of the forest. I wanted to run away and find my sister, but the woman was too quick for me. She grabbed my hand and dragged me into her house. It was so disgusting inside. There was food all over the table, and I even saw a mouse rummaging through the garbage. She let go of me for a second, and that's when I tried to run. But again, she caught me, and this time she tied me to a chair with a rope. "Just try and run away again. Let's see how far you get," she sneered at me. I started crying. Where was I? Maybe if I screamed, my sister would hear me, but I was too scared to scream. In total, I ended up being stuck there for about 3 days. The whole time, the woman watched me like a hawk and told me all these terrifying stories about her life. She showed me a photo of a little girl just like me, and then started crying like a maniac. She said the little girl had died. When she said that, I started panicking. What if I was next? I didn't want to die! Over the 3 days that I was there, she kept speaking about the girl, who I then found out was her daughter. Then she talked about some man that she hated. I realized it was the father of the daughter, but he'd run off and married someone else, abandoning her and her baby. She told me that this man was a monster, and because he betrayed her, she decided to get revenge on him by hurting their daughter. Then she started crying again, saying it was all her fault she died last month because she'd beaten her really badly, and then she'd run off and fallen into the lake near the forest. Then she spoke again. "You look just like her, you know." And she then laughed and cried at the same time, like a lunatic. Was she trying to replace her daughter with me?